Hello and welcome to our three-part web series called The New Normal, How to Expertly Handle Senior Issues Today. Our mission is educating you on the power of using experts to help you decode Medicare, long-term care, and elder law issues. When you are empowered with accurate and efficient information, you can protect your family well, you can spend your healthcare dollars well, and remain calm and confident in your daily lives. The group of experts we have for this series include Keith Knabb of Affordable Medicare Solutions, Sabrina Scott of Red Feather Financial, and Shannon Pauley of the Estate and Asset Protection Law Firm. Each expert will highlight one area of information in each 15-minute segment. Today we are hosted by Sabrina on the changing long-term care market. Our final segment will have Shannon teach us how to be accurate and legally ready for a healthcare event or for the untimely passing of a loved one. Sabrina Scott has been helping people to plan for their long-term care since 2012 when she started working with Victoria Collier at her estate planning law firm. She started by assisting clients with their Medicaid and VA applications and became so adept at doing these that she actually ended up training other attorneys on how to prepare VA claims. Now, with her own financial services business formed in partnership with Victoria, Sabrina focuses on finding ways to allow a client's assets to last at least as long as they do, so that relying on government benefits may not be necessary. She is licensed in insurance and is registered as an investment advisor representative. Sabrina, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you, Keith. Hello, my name is Sabrina Scott. Today I'm going to be talking about the new normal long-term care issues today. And this is in the face of the current coronavirus pandemic. So my business is called Red Feather Financial. It was co-founded by Victoria Collier, an estate planning attorney, and myself. We are an independent financial advisory firm specializing in income for life. As Keith said, we want your money to last as long as you do. And particularly asset-based long-term care solutions. A little bit about me. My parents were clients of Victoria's law firm. That is how I first experienced long-term care concerns and challenges, because my father had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and we were facing that challenge. So I have firsthand experience with that. And also I continue to have experience as he went through his long-term care journey and ended up in assisted living. And then also later, when my mother had needed to have some long-term care at home for a time and was not able to get her long-term care claims paid. I have over 5 years experience in VA pension, filing claims, preparing claims, and nursing home Medicaid in Georgia. And as Keith mentioned, I'm licensed in Georgia to sell life and accident sickness insurance, and am an investment advisor rep. So I can also give recommendations regarding securities. So what do I actually do? I said we are an independent financial advisory firm. But the way I put it, the short answer is that I help you plan for how to pay for potential long-term care in case you become disabled. So let me explain what long-term care is. Long-term care is essentially the type of care you would need, where you would need assistance with at least 2 activities of daily living, or you required supervision due to cognitive impairment. The type of care and your activities of daily living are generally considered things like dressing, bathing, feeding, toileting, that type of thing. These are generally, as the term indicates, long-term care. It's something that's not expected. It's expected to be permanent for a certain period of time. So essentially, when I am looking at long-term care and clients are coming to me to find out how I'm going to determine how they're going to pay for it, there's 3 things that I'm looking at. And this is things that I was looking at before the coronavirus even occurred. So traditionally, I look at health, wealth, and need. So what I mean by need and preferences well, it's preferences essentially. It's what kind of care do you want? How do you envision your care, your long-term care being? There's different kinds of long-term care. Three notable ones: home health care, means care in your home; assisted living, or nursing home. And assisted living being kind of an intermediate care in a facility that does not provide skilled nursing, but does provide certain support for long-term care. It also provides an environment where you can receive such long-term care. So you could receive home health care even in assisted living. And then there's nursing home, which would be when you would need, when your disability is at its most severe and you would need skilled nursing care. So once we look at what kind of long-term care you would like, or what's your goal, we look at potentially what the cost is of that. And of course, when we're looking at the cost of that, we're looking at when potentially are you going to need it. And then once we come up with an idea of, and of course, these are all estimates because these are all things that are happening in the future and that we don't know whether or not they're going to occur. And so the other point we need to calculate or estimate is how long do you think you're going to need that long-term care for? Because are you going to need that long-term care for 6 months? Are you going to need it for 2 years or more? So I look at all of those things in order to determine the need. What is the need or the want in your case? Then I look at wealth. And by wealth, I mean your income and what assets you may have, your retirement accounts. Generally, what is it that you're going to use to pay for your long-term care? Because potentially that's money that you already have. How can we now take what you already have and leverage that in order to stretch it out as much as possible? And then lastly, health. Because the types of solutions I'm looking at are often insurance-based, insurance carriers are assessing the risk in approving applications for these solutions. And so the better your health is, the less money it will take you to get the same benefit. And so that's definitely, one of the three things that we're looking at. And because of the coronavirus, those three things haven't changed, but there are now considerations that we have to take into account, and that everyone is going to have to see as essentially a new normal. So the coronavirus, we can certainly say, is having and is going to continue to have both a health impact and a financial impact for some time to come. And I'm going to go a little bit into more detail about that in the next few slides. I will say now that the health impact and the financial impact is very, very intertwined. Basically, the financial impact is not going away till the health impact is resolved. There's a direct correlation in that. You see the volatility in the market. Until we are feeling more certain about our health, our future of our health, that's when we're going to feel more certain about the future of our finances, and that's when we're going to hopefully see movements towards recovery. And there's going to be a long felt ripple effect due to the virus, because as changes in one area inevitably start spreading into changes in other areas, we're going to have inevitably maybe things we didn't anticipate. I know certainly that when I started to shelter in place and having to start working from home, I suddenly discovered all these other things that were affected that I suddenly had to take care of. And a similar thing is going to happen with the coronavirus. So let's talk about the health impact. And this information is already out of date. In the US, as of April 26, 2020, total cases were 957,000. The next date was already over 1 million, I believe. And total deaths, this was in April 26, 53,922. So first, immediately there's the physical cost for people who have the virus. How many will remain disabled even after recovery and require long-term care? Virus seems to cause heart damage, kidney damage, possibly brain damage. And although I'm seeing lots of videos of people being wheeled out of the hospital and they seem to be completely recovered, other than the fact that they're in a wheelchair, there's, undoubtedly there's going to be many people that are going to require the long-term care, that are going to require assistance with being fed, with, maybe loss of mobility, all of those things. In particular, now long-term care coverage would not come into play for this immediate cost. So, it's not, it doesn't come into play for people who have active, COVID. Generally, those patients, it's their health insurance. But, like I said, inevitably there's going to be people who are going to need long-term care because of permanent or chronic effects of having been infected with the virus. So in particular, there's a significant health impact on the residents of long-term care facilities. So this is assisted living and nursing home facilities, and probably to a certain extent independent living facilities, which I don't really mention as a long-term care facility as much, although potentially it could be treated as such. If the independent living facility is a facility that maybe has group residents, but there's much more independence. They may have their own kitchens, but you could potentially receive home health care in an independent living facility, just like you would receive home health care at home. So, and particularly with the fact that any group resident situation has been basically on lockdown since the beginning or mid-March. In general, all of these facilities now are extremely vulnerable. And why is that? Well, per the CDC website, those at high risk for severe illness are people aged 65 years and older, or people who live in a nursing home or long-term care facility. So those are, I believe they're saying that 8 out of 10 of the people who are, of the deaths are people aged 65 years or older. And so there's vulnerability in that population just because of that. Also, there is, in terms of the ripple effect and potential issues that we may not be seeing right now, but I think we will shortly see, is what the impact is of the isolation of long-term care facilities is going to happen. Basically, because people are not able to go in to see their family members unless it's end-of-life situations. There are residents who may have trouble understanding information, who may have dementia, who may not understand why it is that they can't see their family members, and in a way may feel, there are higher incidences of depression, and that can exacerbate medical conditions that they currently have. And we know that definitely that isolation and even though I know in Georgia we are now lifting restrictions in certain businesses, definitely in long-term care facilities, restrictions will probably remain, for quite a while. So that's something that people may want to consider now in terms of their long-term care plan. How much do you want to plan? Maybe at one point, I think that many people who see me, when I ask them, well, what kind of home health care would you like? Most people, I would say, start out saying, I'd like to stay in my house as long as I can. But if it gets to a point where it's too expensive or too much of a burden to keep me at home, then I'd be happy moving to assisted living, and to live in assisted living as long as I can. And then once I can't live in assisted living any longer, then we'll, proceed to a nursing home. Being, worst case, if there's no way around it, then we'll plan for nursing home. Well, now people may start saying, well, you know what, I really want to plan for home health care. Because of what's going on now, people may change their preference and say, you know what, I want to set aside a little bit more money and make sure that I can get my home health care at home. So these are just some of the things that I mean by the health impact of the coronavirus. Now, the financial impact. And one can do a seminar about just this, and even you could do a seminar or a webinar just about one of these points. So I'm going to go over them fairly quickly. Basically, the financial impact, and this is kind of in the order that I think it's happening, from like the immediate impact of people losing jobs, because when the businesses closed, there was an immediate loss of jobs or hours. And so with that came loss of income. So it may not be complete loss of income, but it might be a reduction of income. Now, for many of my clients who are planning for, their retirement age, well, maybe they didn't lose any income, but in terms of earned income, because they weren't getting any earned income, but certainly if they were depending on income from dividends or from interest, certainly that may not be looking as rosy a picture as it once was, because of what is going on with the market. And that's my next point, the market volatility. We're up, we're down. People who didn't get out in time are bemoaning their losses, while those who are not in the market are wondering whether this is the time to go in. So that certainly is something that is going to roller coaster for quite some time. Like I said, until the health impact starts to smooth out, I don't see any smoothing out in that area anytime soon. So medical expenses, of course, while testing might be free to a lot of people, the care that you need if you do become infected with the coronavirus is not free. And there will be obviously increased medical expenses. And these are, in some cases, catastrophic insurance expenses that might occur for some people. Although, of course, there are limits there are limits and all that, and out-of-pocket limits, but still, medical expenses, certainly for cost of long-term care, is definitely, most likely going, to increase, especially if they have to make adjust accommodations for the future for possibly this happening again. Are we going to have people living in individual rooms, or not have, people sharing 2 to a room, 3 to a room, 4 to a room, as sometimes happens in some nursing home? And then again, another thing is retirement deferral. Are you going to need to put off your retirement because of this? So essentially, even if you're lucky enough not to be affected by loss of job, loss of income, or medical expenses and all that, you may be thinking, you know what, I may need to put off retirement, because, I don't want to pull out now with the market being what it is. So insurance, because the asset-based long-term care solutions that Red Feather Financial focuses on and really finds is a great solution for leveraging your assets. And we're working with life insurance and with annuity companies. And so the insurance industry is something that we definitely monitor, and there's definitely a new normal when it comes to insurance. Certainly there will be increased claims on insurance companies. So both for immediate medical insurance, there's also going to be traditional long-term care insurance claims, and also asset-based long-term care. So the insurance company is already talking about the fact that most likely there will be higher premiums in 2021. So that is something to think of as a consideration, that, if you're planning for long-term care, better to do so now rather than later. So as an example of this, carriers have begun to tighten underwriting guidelines. So we have some of our carriers have actually pulled products from the market, temporarily suspending, saying we're not taking any applications on this. For example, one company is no longer accepting certain applications over the age of 70. So things like that. So these are things that you may need to go ahead and decide that now is the time to be looking at things like that. Also, too, insurance solutions that credit interest based on declared interest rates, they're lowering those rates. So the types of bonuses and things or growth that you were able to get with these products, those are slowly going away, and potentially will continue to reduce as insurance companies are businesses and have to stay in business. And basically what actuaries are saying, that they emphasize that there's a high level of uncertainty surrounding cost projection. So the actuaries are the ones who tell insurance companies what to charge. And because of the current coronavirus, there's a lot of uncertainty. And I think that when things are like that are uncertain, people tend to kind of err on the side of let's go above, because we don't know what's going to happen in this particular situation. So the new normal, what does this mean for you? So number one, does your plan for possible long-term care consider the impact of this COVID-19 pandemic? Certainly, if you've experienced any of the health impact or financial impact I talked about, you may be thinking it's time to see, does this affect my long-term care plan? So what can experts do for you? We can help you navigate the stormy seas. We keep up to date on changes in insurance market to best serve our clients. So we know as soon as a product is leaving and potentially no longer available, or when these changes are coming up. We keep up to date on legislation that can help you mitigate the financial impact. I didn't even touch on any of the legislation, the CARES Act, all of these, the Families First Act. These are all things that could provide you some relief for any financial impact. And we review and we consider all the options and narrow these down to solutions that best meet your individual needs and circumstances. And finally, don't settle for crisis planning. That is how I started with long-term care. Crisis planning, it's an emergency. We got to get this government benefit. This is when you don't plan ahead and when you wait till the last minute, and you eliminate your choices when you do that. So don't settle for crisis planning. You deserve better than that. If you want any more information, here is my website, my phone number, and an email address. Please feel free to call or contact me with any questions or concerns. Thank you. Keith?
Thank you, Sabrina. That was very interesting and certainly valuable information. Families need your service for sure, and that you do all of this is a blessing during this challenging time. We can send you these slides by emailing sabrina@redfeatherfinancial.com. Also, Sabrina has a wealth of educational material for free download at her website, redfeatherfinancial.com. Next week, we will be educated by Shannon Pauley of the Estate and Asset Protection Law Firm. She is an expert in elder law and veterans issues. You don't want to miss her important information for families. Thanks for viewing today. See you next time.